Hello and welcome everyone. This is Dan with Mitel, and I want to take you through a brief discussion and demonstration of a piece of middleware referred to as Mitel EasyPop. Let's begin by understanding what Mitel EasyPop is, and I've placed this before you as a reference. Mitel EasyPop provides the ability to execute a particular user-defined program, batch file, or URL when an incoming call arrives and or an outgoing call is placed. When running on a Mitel subscriber's client computer, EasyPop appears as a small Mitel icon in the Windows taskbar tray while monitoring your Mitel phone line. In addition to that information, please keep in mind that your CRM, which is typically where EasyPop is employed, the ability to pop information from a customer relationship management database, your CRM must be compatible and capable of one of the following search methods. As shown in the first, this is a CRM accessed via a URL in a browser, Chrome being an example, and specifically the construct of the URL is what's important. You must be able to call your CRM and append to the URL construct search terms such as the incoming caller ID. Alternatively, you may want to execute a batch file program on your Windows device. You can then call the program using the file path as demonstrated in the second option. One or the other of these must be possible in order for EasyPop to serve its purposes. Please also note it operates on the Windows OS only. Now with that in mind, let's go back to our original screen. This is known as the Mitel EasyPop screen. We'll come to this in a moment. In the meantime, let's go over here to my system tray and take a look. Here's my EasyPop icon. It confirms for you that I'm actually using line 1025, which confirms and coordinates with the actual Connect Client line that I'm logged into. So I first log into Connect Client. My password information is absorbed and understood by EasyPop so that it can then be launched and rest in the system tray. And if I do a right click, you see that I have the option of logging out and exiting, which I only recommend when you actually are changing accounts. Exit, merely closing the application, but asking it to remember the password associated with the coordinated MyCloud Connect telephone number. The settings screen, which we're going to look at next, is already on my screen. And notice that you can enable and disable pop-ups. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Let's go back to that main EasyPop screen and talk a little bit about what we have here. This is a middleware that's going to provide that bridge between an incoming telephone call and its associated caller ID and an existing CRM application that you will call either by a URL or a path. When you click on path, it's going to indicate that you will then put information in here. At this point, the full path is not a URL. It's looking for a file path construct, very similar to the tooltip that you see popped up. You can do one or the other, not both, and the tooltips will change appropriately for the selections that you've made. It's a really well-designed program. Now, of course, here at the top, you can also ask EasyPop to start when you start Windows. That's entirely up to the user's choice. You can ask the middleware to do its task on inbound calls, outbound calls, internal or external. Your choices are when it should show up. Do you want to see this dialog on answer? This will be triggered immediately on answer, or do you want to do it on appearance? On appearance means as the incoming call is ringing. That is my personal preference and what we'll use today because it actually shows very well and lets you see the value of the pop-up. Now you can make choices. If you wish to be asked first by EasyPop what you want to do in reference to the middleware functions, check the lower box, Ask Me First. If you would prefer to have this triggered immediately, check the upper box. Again, mine is set for Ask Me First, and notice that little link to the Configure dialog. This defines how long the dialog will stay on your screen, what's the size of the pop-up balloon, and what information you want actually displayed when the pop-up that results from an incoming call is displayed. Once you have it the way you set it up and the way you prefer it, go ahead and click OK. That parameters list, by the way, is how you fill in the various parameters from a fixed set of fields. We'll see those fields again as it refers to sending the query to your CRM. So let's click OK. Today, for this example, we're going to do a very simple one. We're going to have an incoming call arrive. We'll ask EasyPop to trigger, and we will have it send out information and perform a simple Google search. Now today, let's show our parameters list, and let's see. Let's have ourselves, let's search the calling party's name. So let's look at calling name. You can just drag that in there. Now this has been appended to a string that already contained calling number, and I'm going to very carefully take that out of there. So you can have one or more parameters strung together. Once you have it the way you like it, then click OK. Notice that there are other things you can do with various options. Of course, there is a user guide that will take you through this step by step. When you click OK, we are ready. So now, what's happening in the background is EasyPop is listening and watching and monitoring my designated MyCloud Connect extension 1025. Based on the settings we've just made, we have asked it to show itself and pop an option window when a call arrives. Let's see what happens when we have a call come in. Of course, I'm dialing directly into my telephone number. So this is a great example for a DID call. Notice how we get all the usual Connect client pop-ups, but we now get the Mitel EasyPop. And here, I can answer only, I can do nothing, I can answer and trigger. I can just trigger. Answer and trigger actually answers the call. And I think that's important because that means it makes things easy and simple. Now just to take this and compress it down a little bit so that we can get our browser kind of situated with the desktop environment, we see that we received a call from a person whose name is Teamwork Alpha. So as a matter of fact, all we really did was we passed that search term to Google's searching environment as Teamwork plus Alpha. That came with these results, so we can look and see what the images and the results were for Teamwork. Obviously, I'm not doing a query on a genuine CRM database right now. This is merely an example. But that's the idea behind Mitel's EasyPop. It does the difficult work for you and looks up that record based on the caller ID and the parameters that you have specified. So let's close that. Let's go back and look at that EasyPop again. In fact, I'm going to hang up that call, and we'll take another call here in just a moment. So let's return to the screen. Let's pop open and look at our settings. And this time, we can do the same thing, but we can change the parameters. So we can backspace this out because this is where we're going to begin. Open your parameters list. This is a fixed list. It's not got variation or the ability to customize. And we're going to say direction. And as a matter of fact, I should show you what it does when you haven't designated anything. We'll take a look at that here in just a moment. But for today, let's go back and let's do calling number. And then let's also do calling name. So we'll pair a couple of parameters together. Close that window, click OK, and then all we have to do is another telephone call. So let's see what happens when we receive a call. Of course, it's a call coming in to 1025. We see our pop-up, and this time I've chosen to trigger only, and I will answer the call manually. And what we've done here is we've done a search on those two items. So we asked to search on the telephone number and the name that was delivered. So in this case, obviously, once again, passing that data into the Google search engine didn't quite make sense to the Google search. It recognizes that there needed to be a space there, but I think we understand what we're trying to do here. So far we've done that on inbound calls, but you can also do that on outbound calls. So a lot of times when you're given a list of calls to make as an agent, it might be important for you to have that information pop as a process of the outbound call. You want to see that record. You want to find out who that is, and so that you're ready with part of the conversation when they pick up on the far end. So in this case, let's set this for outbound calls. It already is set up to do that. Let's go ahead and remember, of course, that we're triggering only through the Google environment right now, but this could be a URL that represents your CRM. We'll click OK. I'll make an outbound call, this time from that designated telephone number, and let's see what happens when we do this. Making that outbound call. We see it trigger, and this time it doesn't need to answer the call. The call's already off hook. Let's do a trigger. And specifically what is happening is it's running a search based on information that I've presented to it. So again, number. Now notice what it said. It's looking at the calling number and the calling name. So the important thing to remember here is the direction of the call and the parameters you want. So let's hang that up and return to our EasyPop integration. Let's open up our settings. And again, this is not something that you typically have to work with on a call-by-call basis. We're just taking some time to really do an analysis here of what the possibilities are. So this was not the calling that we really wanted. If we are popping information on an outbound call, we probably want to do a search on the called number. So let's try that and see if it doesn't change our search parameters just a little bit. So I'm going to go off hook. I'll dial the number. We anticipate and expect we'll get a nice little pop-up. It's going to invite us to trigger. And we do that, and it runs a search this time on the number that I called, which for those of you that have worked with me before will instantly recognize as the National Bureau of Standards in Fort Collins, Colorado. So if you did enough of a search down here, you would discover that there it is right there. There it is. That's the time and National Bureau of Standards, the speaking clock in Boulder, Colorado. So that's exactly how this works. This is how you can make use of it as an individual. Remember, it only does operate under Windows. You can have it load when Windows starts, and if you're not quite ready to have it pop up on an inbound or outbound call, you can simply squelch that activity by unchecking pop-ups enabled. Now you can go on about your day, and then when you're ready to do whatever you need to do at a particular time or hour of the day, make sure that you enable those pop-ups again. Once you do that, you'll see the icon darken again, and we're on our way. As a note for future reference, be sure that you review our one-page area where we have a nice write-up specifically for Mitel EasyPop for MyCloud Connect, as well as other Mitel products on which you can utilize EasyPop, such as My Voice Connect. So be sure you visit our OneView page and take a particularly close look at the download available here under User Guide. Hopefully this has been helpful in giving you kind of a high-level overview and activity around how EasyPop works and what it does. Let us know if you have questions. We're available all the time, www.mitel.com.